Why do people with faith believe? And how can they hold on to that faith? Jeffrey Brown recently spoke to Princeton University professor Elaine Pagels at the Miami Book Fair about her new book, Why Religion? A personal story of faith overcoming tragedy.
What is this book? How do you describe it? Because you're well known for scholarly books. This is something different.
This is something I never thought I would do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's a genre for it. Some people call it memoir because it's first person, but it really isn't just that. I didn't want to do just that.
Yeah.
I wanted to interweave the life and the work and show how the work comes out of very specific issues and just talk in a very much more personal way.
That's why I asked, because it is memoir-like.
Very much so. I've always written history and I love to do that. I mean, it's been really fun and I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
But this was an attempt to go back and deal with issues that I had to deal with personally, personal losses that had come up so intensely that I couldn't deal with them at the time. And the way that they're really part of the story.
Part of the story in your early years is of you coming from a more secular background,
Yes.
but discovering religion in an old-fashioned, traditional way through Billy Graham, right? Going to hear him speak.
Well, that will surprise people. There are some evangelical groups who have called me Elaine Pagan
Right.
because they think I don't really engage that kind of thing.
Right.
But, the tradition, my parents, well, it was kind of culturally Protestant, but my father had no use for religion, and we sometimes went to a church that was essentially boring. But the encounter with a Billy Graham crusade was powerful emotionally.
Yeah.
And also it was very challenging. So I found it like a breakthrough. I sort of plunged at that point at the age of 14, going on 15, into an evangelical group briefly because it was powerful experience. And then I left it after a year and just thought, well, I'm done with that. And years later, maybe 4 or 5 years, I thought, wait a minute, what was it about that was so powerful? So I went back and I wanted to find out how the Christian movement started and who was Jesus. And then, of course, the story gets much more complicated and interesting because all these secret gospels we never knew about emerged.
Which is the subject that you came out to the world with, and we get to know you.
Yes, and it does make us all aware much more critically of the kind of teachings you find in various churches, because now you know that that's only a small stream of Christianity from a much wider range of sources.
Another part of the personal story, though, that comes along the way is the upfront sexism in the university you encountered. The criticism, of course, even disdain for some of the original work.
It's a minor note in the story, but it's part of what anyone would have encountered at that point in graduate school. Any woman, let me correct that, any woman would have encountered, and many did. So it's just, it's not that it's unique, it was just typical.
So in the most personal sections of the book, the tragedy of the loss of your son, born with a rare condition, so that you knew he would die early on.
We did. Well, from the age of 2, I mean, he was born with a heart condition. We thought that was repaired. But from the time of 2, we knew that he wouldn't live long.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to live with. He was our only child.
How hard was it to go back and write?
Excruciating. That's why it took me 28 years to do it.
Yeah.
I never thought I would. But, there's something about those experiences that they don't just go away unless you engage them and allow them to emerge. So finally, when my children were out of the house, because we adopted 2 children, I had to go back and look at it.
Soon after your son's death, your husband is killed in an accident.
Yes, it was just a mountain climbing accident. And he had climbed for all the 22 years we were married, so I never thought about it.
Yeah.
But it was traumatic.
You're writing about at that time not feeling so close to any sense of particular faith that might help you, but you clearly had to look for what could help you.
I was thinking of William James in his famous book, The Varieties of Religious Experience. And he writes in that book of how he went into a deep depression. I wasn't in that kind of depression. At a certain point, he would cling to sayings like, the Lord is my refuge. He said, like a drowning man in the ocean clinging to a log. He said, I didn't believe it at the time, but it sort of kept me from drowning. And I had to keep exploring. And the work became a kind of yoga that I I love and that I engage in now in so many ways.
Well, what did you learn? I mean, and how long did it take you to learn it?
Well, I wouldn't have written a book if I could answer that in a sentence. But
Right.
one of the things that just amazes me is how resilient human beings are. The things people live through that they think they can't. And what happened here is unusual, but what happens to many other people is even more, excruciating when they deal, for example, with violence, which I didn't. So I'm amazed at how we do those things. And the question is how. I mean, how do we heal?
Yeah.
And that's what this book is about.
Do you buy the idea of getting past the grief, or is it living with the grief?
People say, how did you ever get over it?
Yeah.
And I say, what makes you think I'm over it?
Right.
I think you get through it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's over,
Yeah.
but it also means that you're not clinging to it or stuck. And that's a big help.
You probably have people often asking you for advice, like, what should I do? What should I practice? What do you tell them?
Well, I think they should go to some practitioner of this,
Yeah?
of this various traditions.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about the Gospel of Thomas, which says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. I don't think there's a single answer to that. Some people find their home in some deeply Orthodox tradition, like Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, or Ethiopian Orthodox, and others would find that stifling and would rather be Christian Scientists. I mean, I think, or Jews, or whatever.
What do you hope people will take from your book as they read your more personal story?
Two things. One is that we can live through a lot more than we can possibly imagine we could survive. I never thought I could survive what happened. I wasn't sure I wanted to. But it's amazing to be able to do that. And second, that these religious traditions may have some deep values, that you don't have to throw it all away because you disagree with certain ideas, because you don't believe in X, Y, and Z. Not that I advocate that so much, but I do think for me it's enormously important to have a sense of a spiritual dimension in life.
All right, the new book is Why Religion? A Personal Story, Elaine Pagels. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you can find all of Jeff's conversations during the Miami Book Fair online. Search Book View at pbs.org.